All right, I'm pumped for this. I got Neil from Trick Strong. Man, pumped to have you on. Whereabouts are you located?
How's it going? Yeah, happy to be on. And I am in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, awesome. So literally across seas. That's awesome, man. Because I'm in Australia, so this is really exciting, man. I got recommended you from some of the boys at the gym.
Oh, cool.
The dude tricking, like, you got to check him out. I'm like, all right, sick. And then I saw your page. I was like, oh, I definitely need to have a chat with
Nice.
you. So I'm pumped, bro. Super,
Appreciate
super
it.
pumped. Dude, could
Who
you
who are you training with? Sorry, I
I'm
know it's your
training. Oh,
podcast, but I'm just
you're
curious.
good. I'm training with Phil Gibbs.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Vinny that actually recommended me. Maybe Damon as well. I'm not sure. But
Nice.
yeah, so I'm just training with those boys there, having a heap of fun. I'm still quite beginner, but having fun with it. Absolutely loving it. So yeah,
Awesome.
pumped. Super pumped. Bro.
Cool, cool.
Uh, bro, I jumped on your website before just to get some info and stuff. It said that you've been training, and I don't know how recently you've updated, for like 17 years of tricking. Is that right?
Yeah, it's up to 19 plus
Yeah.
now.
That's awesome, man. So what got you into it?
You know, it's funny. I just saw a backflip in a movie,
I'll do it.
in a TV movie too, on top of it. It was like random TV movie that I don't know the name of still now, and it's changed my life completely. And that's all I can tell you, but it was just a random backflip. It wasn't the first time I'd ever seen one. It wasn't the last time, clearly.
It was just
And
one.
it was just a random backflip. And I was like, it just triggered something in my head where I'm like, could I do that? Should I do that? Could I push myself to do that? And I think the real mindset thing that it was for me, I was 15 at the time, and it was like, okay, every 3 months, I'm like going through different fads and stuff like that, as you do as a teenager. And then I'm like, well, could I stick to something? That was probably a good quality to have. And am I able to do it? And so, yeah, with the backflip, it was almost like a challenge for me. It was like, oh, I want to do this. And this is a good thing to test to see if I can do what I want.
How long did it take for you to hit it?
It took I call it 4 months because, yeah, I was like, yeah, about 4 or 5 months. But that was, I didn't have any gym. I didn't even have a gymnastics gym. I didn't have anybody who does tricking at all. So basically, I just convinced all my friends to start tricking with me at the same time, pretty much. And then I taught them how to spot just from some YouTube video, because that's the only way I knew how to spot. I was like, hey, watch this, and then your life is in my hands.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
what a reason to get into it. Hey, I was fairly similar, not so much just seeing one backflip, but I was just like, we had a trampoline, and I was like, well, my brother was in gymnastics. I was like, oh, I won't be able to do what he can do right now. That's cool. And then like grew up on the trampoline. We weren't really big into YouTube at the time, so like I would have been interested to see where, like, what could have been if we had YouTube then as well. But then I had a bit of a rest, but still I was just like, ah, man, I really like this stuff. I'd love to do it. And then I just put up a story on Instagram one day. I was like, oh, anyone knows how someone can teach me this? And then someone recommended me Phil Gibbs. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is what I want. I didn't even know tricking existed. I was like, oh, okay. Booked in a PT session with him. And I was like, this is it. This is fucking awesome. Let's
That's
do this.
awesome.
Yeah. I also, bro, I saw you've got some credentials. Oh my God. It's awesome. So you're a doctor of physiotherapy, right?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. And athletic trainer as well.
Correct.
I love this. This is super exciting, man. So I don't have those kind of credentials, but I love training the athletes that I'm working with. So I work with a lot of like MMA guys, jiu-jitsu guys, and I'm trying to
Nice.
get into with some triggers as well. I've got a trampoline
Yeah.
athlete, which is really cool. Just not doing the bodybuilder thing, a whole different path of just being able to move your body in fun ways. And
Yes.
this is something really cool. So I'm definitely keen to hear some of the stuff that you've got. I've got a heap of questions for you. So this is
Please,
exciting.
please.
At the moment, how many athletes roughly are you working with?
That's difficult to decide to answer, just because you know how it is. People come in, people go
For
out.
sure.
So it's a difficult one.
No, for sure.
But
Because you've got that
a good amount.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because you've got the app. Do you do? I saw you can book in one-on-ones with you as well. Do you try to get everyone to your app as opposed to one-on-ones, or you try and get both going at the same time?
So I have things available out there, and I kind of want to meet people where they're at, you know?
Yeah.
So each one of the offerings I currently have like kind of a different purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
somebody might go on our Instagram, on the Trickstrong Instagram, and then see like, oh, there's an app and there's more about this kind of thing. But I'm not really, I mean, there's just so many different use cases. Like, let me give you a background first. For example, for me, like the way I got into physical therapy was because I was doing tricking. It started hurting. And I was like, huh, how could this stop? How could I help my friends as well? Which was really awesome to be able to do. Like, you know, somebody gets aches or pains in the session. I'm like, hey, I just had that a couple weeks ago, and this is what I did for it. And this is what basically at the time, the only credentials I had were Google. And
Yeah.
so like, yeah, you know, this is what I learned from Google, and maybe this will help you out. Right. So my point in saying all that is that I'm very big on the online space because that's where I came from. That's what started teaching me about this field, versus a lot of people got personally treated by a physical therapist. And that's how like almost everyone else in my class was that. So I have these different online options. So I have a virtual session option, which is a one-on-one virtual session, similar to like how we are on Zoom right now.
Yeah.
And then I have the app, and that's just kind of like me back then, somebody who's just trying to seek out knowledge and doesn't necessarily either have the resources, time, or even the severity of injury. You know, somebody might just want general advice. They might not want the whole deal, you know, or they think they don't want that because they haven't had that. And so yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And they're kind of split through. I would say my most, it's kind of difficult, but I guess I see the most people in person.
Yeah.
I probably see the most people in person.
The app looks awesome, man. I was having a look today. Like, I was like, am I about to sign up for this?
Thank
you. This is sick.
Yeah.
I love it.
Cool.
It looks really,
so you
really cool.
started it today?
Yeah. As in, started the app?
No, like, I mean, you did you log in, or did you just look at the site?
No,
Or?
I just had a look at your links and
Gotcha.
stuff. And I was just like looking at what you include with everything. I was like, oh, this is really, really cool, because I am experiencing pain from tricking. And I was like, oh, there might be an answer here, because
There you go.
I get really sore right lower back from all the cartwheels. That's like my number one spot. Like, I also will wake up and like, can't move, but that's the one spot that's been killing me the most. I'm not sure how to deal with it.
Dude, got tons of advice for you. Do you twist left or right?
Left.
Okay. So it's on that. It's probably on the takeoff then that you're feeling it.
Yeah.
Like, or I should say the landing of the cartwheel.
Yes.
That impact there. How long has it been going on?
It's
pretty. I don't know if you want me to eval you on the podcast.
Well, it's awesome to see just in action, bro. Too. It's pretty much every week. I usually only go once a week at the moment. I want to ramp it up soon, but once a week, and then I'm like hurting for days. So it's actually like a limiting factor for me. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do anything else.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, you know, and a lot of people kind of make that a normal thing. In tricking, it's normalized completely. And I literally just filmed a video today. I was going to erase it, but I was like, I don't know, maybe you could see it back there or not. Who knows? But it says, what does it say? You should always warm up. And then it says the why, the how, and then the phases of a complete warm up and everything. But you know, so warming up is a useful thing. But a lot of people are just in pain, and it's just normal, quote unquote normal, but it doesn't have to be that way. Is my point.
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, if you strengthen your body in the ways that are conducive to what you want to do, not just what some random guy is doing on Instagram or whatever else, like, oh, like that's a cool program. It's like, that guy's a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
How is that going to help you? You do something completely different. Oh, that guy does like badminton. I don't know, man.
We have similar conversations with people, I think, because in the jiu-jitsu world, they're like, nah, I just don't have time for it. I was like, yeah, I don't have time for a 2-hour bro split either, dude. Like, that's not what we're doing. This is completely different. Yeah, no. Okay, because I do train quite differently than like the bodybuilder splits and stuff like that. But then jiu-jitsu is very physical as well, lots of twisting, but it's still not that like that explosiveness of lifting your body in the air and twisting. So I still think that there's something I need to implement there, just because I am waking up in pain and then I'm normalizing like, fuck, that was an intense session. I probably should be sore, but that's not what I want. I know work capacity is there. I just need to figure out the things I've got to plug in for it as well.
Absolutely. And I love how you put that. And that's, you know, a conversation topic too, where it's like, all right, jujitsu, a lot of core strength, as you know. I mean, it's nuts. You know, more way, it's difficult to say, but I would say definitely more upper body endurance over tricking.
Yeah.
And I could say strength too, because we're lifting our whole body with one arm sometimes.
Yeah.
But then again, you're throwing some guy. So anyway, to your point, everything is a little bit different. And that's why you have to do things that mimic what you're doing, right? So for jujitsu, you might be on the ground a lot. You're not going to be on your feet.
No.
So you're not training your legs in the way that tricking would necessarily train your legs. And even doing weightlifting and things like that, you're introducing a completely new stimulus to your body. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just so different. And that's the beauty of the said principle, right?
Yeah. I love that.
So if you have those specific adaptations, it stands for specific adaptation to impose demands. So that means that that's how your body grows and adapts. So if you can do things that are more similar to what you're trying to do, then your body will adapt that much better and it'll carry over to that thing much more. But where do we have all our strength knowledge from? You know, now it's becoming different, but from the historical sense, it's all like bodybuilding, powerlifting. That's where a lot of the earlier research comes from, you know, and that's where a lot of people are putting their training into, and that doesn't work for tricking.
No, it's a different blueprint completely, right? Like they're just taking the wrong information. Like, yeah, for sure, get strong. If you're not strong at all, cool, get strong. But don't expect that to just carry over to being able to be pain free in tricking, right? Like or even jujitsu. It's not the same thing. It definitely doesn't hurt to be stronger than being weak, but we do want to just have this specific stuff as well, right?
Absolutely.
That's cool. I wonder, is tricking similar in jiu-jitsu in the fact that do you get any resistance to get people to start doing strength training? Because I don't know about you, but the jiu-jitsu guys, they're like so fixed on the sport themselves. Like, I just want to do this thing. And it's like they don't want to do weights. And it's my job to explain the benefits and how that's going to benefit them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, all movement artists, and what I call a movement artist is somebody who does art with their body. They're an athlete, but they are an individual sport typically. So it's going to be the more traditional ones. We could start with martial arts, gymnastics, but then it gets to like circus arts, tricking, parkour, cheerleading, free running, all these kinds of things that weren't around that long ago. These new, you know, BMX, extreme sports, all this kind of stuff. That's like the movement artist, right? And they need something very different than, again, somebody just trying to lift something very heavy or push someone that is also very heavy, like football, you know, American football and things like that. So we just need different things. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to fill that gap to helping people to find what that is, right? With Trick Strong. And to your point, I mean, of course, everyone that's a movement artist is obsessed with the movement, with their art, right? So they're not trying to do other. It's almost, it seems like a waste of time in their brains. Yeah. It's like, what does that have to do with what I'm trying to do? That's not, like, people literally I've heard it at a gathering like less than a month ago. It's like, well, that's not tricking. In regards to conditioning, it's like, that's not tricking. Like, I don't need to train that. Yeah. You know, so that's where we're at.
Do you find that the content that you make is to try to like plant the seeds in their minds that it's like, oh, I should be adding this in?
You know, I wish I was that, I think I'll get there. I wish I was that manipulative and that like, oh, you know, like that good of a marketer to plant seeds. But really my style is like, yo, I got information that I guarantee you is highly useful to you.
Yeah.
I've done the research for about 20 years now. If you want it, it's there.
Yeah.
Like, here it is. I'm working on the marketing thing.
No, well, that's the thing, right? Because you obviously, and that's the thing I've noticed with trickers the most is the community aspect of it. Like you want there to be as many trickers as possible at the highest level they can get to, and it's almost your job to be like, hey, this is going to get you there faster and less injuries. And like, it is like, if the marketing of it's not like sign up to my app, but it's like, I know what you need to make this path smoother, right? Like you have the actual blueprint that's needed instead of like the bro split.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And I'm always going for more every day. That's the thing. I'm trying to pull from different, like, this is something new.
Yeah.
And it requires you to pull from different inspirations. And I'm constantly doing that. I just took a course in 2 months ago now in Austin, Texas. It was the functional range conditioning.
Awesome.
The functional range systems, they have a course called the internal strength model, and it was so cool. Such a cool course.
Awesome.
And even that, right? That's like 2 months ago. I'm going to be implementing those kinds of things onto the app very soon. So people don't know the amount of research I'm doing in the background to bring it back to movement art.
That's
because it's not there. The research is all in the other. There's more money in those sports. And that's really the real answer, because research is funded and research is usually done to solve someone's question, and someone's question usually has some money behind it. Sure. And, all the strength research, strength and conditioning research, all this kind of stuff is going to be NFL, NBA, major league sports and stuff. It's like, okay, well, how can we get these guys to the next level? How can we blah, 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 right? The Olympic level, all these kinds of people are the ones utilizing the research more so than these new movement arts, these sports that are, have no money at all, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I think that the issue is like, we have to extrapolate, but luckily gymnastics is at least popular.
Yeah. Yeah. Take what you can get with that. Hey, that's cool though, man. It's cool to see the love you have for it, that it's the constant evolution, right? Because I talk to people all the time when they like get their cert for their PTs and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, I can be a PT now. I'm like, you don't understand that was just the entry. And if you want to be good at this and be around forever, you need to constantly be evolving and like being obsessed with trying to get the best information that you can get out, because you need to love it. You can't just be like, this seems easy. You actually need to make changes to other people's lives.
That's my goal, literally. Actually, that is my why, I would say, is to unlock human potential, like not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, whatever. I want people to feel empowered to do what they want to do with their lives. And I just want to be able to give them the tools to be able to do that. It's not for me to decide what they want to do with their lives, but
give them the tools.
Exactly. Yeah. I would love to do that. And that's an honor, So yeah, I take that seriously, and I'm always looking for the next thing for myself, for my clients, all that.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because that's exactly how I feel as well. I actually wrote down one of my questions, like, what's your mission? What's your big why? And it's like, oh, we got there perfectly with that, because mine's the same thing. It's, I don't care what sport or, art they're doing. It's, I just want to give you the capabilities to go do that at the best of your ability and have fun in life. Like, this, like, train hard at the gym for fun outside. And that feeling gives me goosebumps when I go see someone do the sport that they love. And it's like, oh, wow, I helped you do this. That's really, really cool. And then the mindset stuff. So I'm doing mindset coaching courses at the moment, because I think that's been like the biggest missing piece for me. Because it's like, yeah, fitness, nutrition, cool. Let's get that down. But the thing that's holding you back is your mindset. And I actually saw on the app, it said that you do mindset videos. What do you do for those things?
Yeah. And basically what that was a series that I started off earlier in the app's journey. And it was kind of like solo podcasts from people that I love their mindsets in the community, in the movement community. So that's Vivian Yulu, if you're familiar, from France. I know you're new into tricking, but he's an old school tricker, and he is his mindset's amazing. He's one of my best friends, but he is very well known in the community, and he is somebody who will pretty much never give up. And so I had him talk about that, and I had him talk about the difference between dedication and motivation. because I think that's a very important concept for anybody doing anything hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be hard. You're going to want to quit. If you're dedicated, you don't quit.
Right. And like you, in order to have dedication, you need a why, like lasting dedication. You need a why in order to fuel that. For those moments of doubt when you're unable to fight that doubt, then at least you have something to fall back to where it's like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. So it's an anchor, you know? So that's the kind of stuff I have with the mindset videos.
That's cool, man.
We had another one on limiting beliefs, and it was from a female tricker, Trisha, from Euphoria. And that was a super cool perspective too, because especially when I started, it's getting less and less now, which I love to see. But when I started, there was like, 3 to 5 girls in tricking. And what better person than an OG started like 2000, I don't know. She probably started in like 2005 to 2007 era, like around when I started. And she's still pushing Euphoria right now. And for her to get over all those limiting beliefs, doing the hardest tricks back then and all that kind of stuff, and to create Euphoria and have all basically the females in tricking, women in tricking, to be able to have an inspirational outlet to be like, oh yeah, we can do this too. And it's just so awesome. So we got some good stuff there. And I think that comes out more in the podcast too. So I kind of stopped updating that section and I started just talking to people too.
Yeah. There's only a certain amount of like solid ones you can do. Hey, then it's like, I need to talk to some people. This will be that's cool, man. I love the limiting beliefs with the female, because my daughter's 4 months now, so she's not quite ready for tricks, but we'll get there,
Congrats.
Thanks, man. But that's one of the things. It was like, well, what do I want her to do? Like, and I was like, oh, for sure, like tricking. And I talked to Phil, and he's like, wants to open his gym and stuff. And he's like, yeah, from like 3 years old, we'll be taking him. I was like, well, that's what I want you to do. I want you to have not so much like the structure of gymnastics. Like gymnastics is really cool, but I think sometimes it's a bit firm on what they're pushing for, whereas I feel like tricking is just a little bit more free. I'd love for her to do that. So to see that the females are coming to tricking is super exciting. And having chats with her, bro, like that's a massive thing for the community, for more people to see and bring the eyes to it as well. So that's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all just fun, man. I mean, when I started, we get it the other way. Like I started tricking first, and then I started having pain. Then I was like, oh, let me do physical therapy as a career. Like, so from before I even knew anything, this was my goal. So to be able to do it is very important to me, and it touches me, and I'm very happy to be able to do it.
Dude, best job in the world, right? Like,
yeah,
the best in the world. I was at family dinner last night. They're like, oh yeah, everyone hates their job. I was like, not me. Not me. I love my job. This is the best thing ever. Like, you get to help people live their life the way they want, giving them the tools. That's the best. So
I agree.
When someone comes into tricking, but like very fresh, what would you say, with low work capacity, what would you do to build them up? What kind of frequency would they be training, and what kind of split would they be doing with weights and tricking?
I love that question, because I'm like literally revamping this right now. And I'm creating a course on the TrickStrong RX app. It's going to be called Foundations.
Perfect.
And this is the first time I'm saying this really to anyone, actually. And the premise of that is to help that exact person. Somebody who, because there are people like that on the app right now, which I think is so cool. Like, to go from we have nothing and let's just throw ourselves in the grass and do some random flips, to being able to see TrickStrong or something like that first and be like, man, it would be cool to do something interesting with my body. Like, I want to do cool stuff, but not a traditional sport, or like, I kind of want to do parkour or capoeira or tricking, or, and then to be able to go on the app and be like, oh, I can create a body that can support that before I start it. That way I'm prepared to do it and have a better time with it. Right. So in researching your answer to this question, I think a pretty nice sweet spot, what I think we're going to go with is like, it depends on how trained they are. You said they're untrained pretty much completely. Okay, cool.
With that. Yeah.
So then we can go 1 day a week, upper body strength, traditional strength training.
Yep.
And when I say traditional, I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. But upper body strength training 1 day, lower body strength training 1 day, upper body mobility training 1 day, lower body mobility training 1 day. Honestly, and incorporating cardiovascular training into that somehow. So that could look a lot of different ways, but it could be just steady state cardio. So biking, walking, jogging, depending on their capacity. Or one of the days could be a full body day. And we could do like a Metcon. We could do 2 full body days where one of their 2 full body strength days. That's another option we could do with this, where that person's doing like a strength endurance kind of strength circuit training on one of the days to help with their cardio system. And that's actually the way we train tricking. So we do a bunch of stuff and then we rest. And then we do a bunch of stuff and we rest. So it's training those energy systems specifically. And then the other could just be regular full body strength training so that you could focus on higher weight, like, higher intensity, lower volume.
I love that. Yeah, that's really cool. Just having that blueprint there to come in, because like it's how we do jiu-jitsu all the time. Like people quit very fast because you don't come in good at it, and it hurts a lot, right? So if you can at least like show the path of like this is what we're going to start with, and we can ramp it up. There's like that clear outcome. It's like this is what I'm expecting. This is where we'll get to. You don't have to be at a level 10 yet. Like you're just coming into this. No. So I think that's the pathway forward super important for them, just for their longevity of them actually tricking, right?
Dude, absolutely. And, I just want to explain a little bit more, just a little bit.
Please.
If you want the full story,
I'm down.
Come on the app, because I'm sure I'll have an intro video to it for 10 minutes or so about explaining the science and everything.
I love it.
But, people will hear that and think it's light. Did you think that?
No.
Did you think 1 day a week of strength training for a body part would be like too little?
No, I didn't, but I could definitely see how people would think that. Yeah.
Right. And so that's huge for athletes, right? Because as we just said, they don't want to do they don't want to do this stuff. It's homework. They want to do what they like to do, which is playing, which is the movement art, right? So how encouraging is it to know that you can train muscle group basically once a week and make significant gains, especially if you just started?
Oh yeah.
Especially if you just started, you'll make crazy gains, but to anyone, even elite, will still make progress with enough intensity with a one day a week. That gives you a lot more days to play with to work on your craft.
Yeah.
And what I think a lot of people are scared about with conditioning is that it'll take away from their sport.
100%.
Yeah. And it
won't.
Like it will add so much. It will give you. There's this one thing I told Mike DeGuilmy. He's been tricking for like over a decade now, but back when he started, I was like his sensei. Like he was just starting. And so I remember telling him this once where it was like, okay, would you rather work really hard at a session and go 100% all the time and then not condition? Or so you have your 100% capacity that you're putting into tricking. So that sounds like great, right? Or you could have worked out earlier that day or earlier in the week where now you're a little bit sore. Now you have 80% to put into your session. So 80% sounds like less than 100%. Here's the thing. Your 80% will be bigger than your 100% very soon. So you're increasing capacity to be able to be better over time, to be stronger, more mobile, better cardio, more fit in every way. Do that. That's the long-term approach. And it's not even that long-term. I mean, you see these gains in like if you're a noob, instantly,
yeah.
Anyone 4, 6, 8 weeks, you're going to start seeing progress. So it's just such a no-brainer to me that and I'm trying to find the way to put it, but I don't think there's one way. Everyone works a little bit differently.
That works perfectly for me because once you explain, it's like, hey, right now you're 100% here, but if we add in the conditioning, we can get your 100% to be your 20%. And wouldn't that be a better outcome? And you're like, oh yeah, cool. I'm not here for like a 6-week sprint at a thing. I would like to be the best I can be over the next 10 years. So just like taking that time horizon longer, I'd be like, okay, well, how do I not get injured? How can I be just more explosive and just be better at tricking in general? Like, what's the blueprint there? And that's perfect, man. I love that so much.
Thank you. Yeah. And I love the time horizon that you said, because that's a great way to put it. It's like, all right, so what is your time horizon here? If you're really that adamant about not improving the vehicle you have to express what you're trying to do. Like, if you're going to go drive, you want to drive across the country, you're going to make sure the car works first before you do that, right?
Exactly.
Like, or else you're dumb.
Yeah.
And you're going to break down really soon.
And then, yeah, that's it, right? And that's, I'm sure that would have to happen, that people have this momentum and then they get injuries. Like, how do you overcome when people do get injured? Do you just be like, hey, this is what we're going to focus on at the moment, just shift your focus here so we can get you back tricking? Or like, yeah, what do you do for that?
Is this, sorry, like, I just want to be clear, like, is this somebody who got injured and is coming to me, or somebody who was doing all this stuff and is discouraged that they got injured? They're like, oh, I conditioned and look what happened anyway.
That's a fair one. I could think that could happen too. I was going more so just someone just doing their thing, tricking, get injured, and then like not wanting like to stop tricking, but like struggling with the fact that they can't do the thing they love the most, and it's like time for the conditioning.
Oh, it's so rough for these people, because there's going to be at least, and these people, like, I'm not them, you know, we're all them. We're also athletes. And that's the thing that I think also helps some people, like knowing that we practice what we preach, so that there's experience behind it, not just like numbers or study or textbook, like, oh yeah, this says you should rest right now. But speaking from both experience and expertise, people go back too soon. And usually when you're pain-free is when people will go back. The problem with that is that you're at best probably like 80% at best. And
you're ready to rip at 100 because you're like, I'm pain-free. I haven't been here for weeks.
You're at 80% in an area that it's 100% wasn't enough.
Yeah.
You sprained your ankle. That was at 100% health. Now you're pain-free and you're trying to go back to tricks. It's at 80% at that point. It is even weaker than when you sprained it and you're trying to do the same thing. So that's the issue, right? And so I try to explain that kind of thing to them. And I try to explain my own experiences of doing the same type of stuff and realizing time and time again that, wow, if I had just waited, that would be a good thing. Yeah. So really it's a huge mindset thing more than anything. It's not that they have the dedication. Usually they're movement artists, trigger, anybody like that is going to be super dedicated to their sport usually. And so the discipline comes from reeling them back from that and funneling that into strength, mobility, whatever they need to be doing to get better, and to show them like, yo, look, like. And I think it's easier now, right? I mean, every second of your life you see a reel now explaining it on Instagram.
For sure. Yeah. No,
so it's a little easier sell now. I honestly think so than before. But the harder part is actually making the behavior change. You know? No, I think people understand it.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to say than do, right? Because even with my training, I'm like, I like to say to everyone that I train, like, especially with the jiu-jitsu guys, it's like, this is not the sport of no injuries. Like, you will get injured at some point. That wasn't your conditioning fault. Like, things we can do better, and like use that as a reason. Don't be a victim. Like, use that as a reason to get stronger in these areas. But you need to understand that at some point you probably will get injured, and how we attack that will definitely make a difference in the longevity of the sport, how much you love it, everything like that. And just taking that little bit extra to spend more time in the gym to strengthen or just to heal, get some blood flow and stuff like that, instead of jumping straight back into it at 100%, but you're not 100%, will make a massive difference to the outcome forever, right?
I can't tell you how many people, even this week included, that are telling me that they're stronger because of their injury, because it forced them to actually take care of their body. Like, I'm talking about people of all ages, all walks of life, all conditions. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, I have somebody, older client, training for a long time, she's never felt better. It's been less than a month of me seeing her.
Wow. That's not a lot of time, right? Like
That's not a lot of
huge.
time. And that's, comparing like 1 month to several years. That's a completely different time frame. And so that should encourage people watching this, is like, yo, these changes it doesn't mean you're going to be fighting an uphill battle for the rest of your life. Like, if you're doing the right stuff, these changes should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they should be very tangible and noticeable, and be like, okay, this is the right path. You should know within a month or two that, like, either the things, depending on how severe it is, that, like, usually people know pretty quickly that, oh, I'm doing a lot better right now because I couldn't move my shoulder this way, or I couldn't move my back this way. So
I love that. That's all, because I'm sure you see plenty of injuries in tricking. Like it's an amazing sport, but there's a lot of uncontrollables as well while you're up in the air flying around. So strengthening the body to be as bulletproof as possible. Obviously, you can't, even with conditioning, right? Like, there's still that chance that it's going to happen, but that's not the conditioning's fault. It's just another reason to get stronger somewhere else.
Exactly. And, like, perfectly stated. Everyone thinks that it's like age that's making them more injury prone and stuff. It's like, you're just exposing yourself to more risk, literally. Like, every time you go to a session, just an exposure. And what you're doing right now with your warm-ups, with your training, with everything else, is mitigating risk. That's always a good idea, even when things go wrong. Like, like, people get very emotional. They're like, like, and the reason I said the conditioning thing earlier is because that's a common thing I actually hear. It's like, like, I got injured anyway, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, man, we don't have, I wish I had this, man, a what if machine to ask. Like, just, I would ask it forever until I died, probably, like, what if this happened? What if this happened? So, like, what if you did not condition? What if that completely blew out that joint, or made the injury much worse, or now you weren't able to get to that level? You don't know what if, but evidence shows that these things reduce risk of injury. They improve performance. So do them.
Just do them. Yeah. Don't blame it if you get injured. It's like, you're not just going for a walk. That's not what's happening here. You're doing an amazing thing with your body, and you're demanding a lot from it. And sometimes things don't go to plan, and that's okay. But just don't quit. Follow the path forward. Get better. Don't jump back in straight away. Ease yourself back in, and then keep pushing forward. I love that. That's super important message for people in any sport, really. Like, any kind of thing. It's just, don't blame the conditioning is helping. For sure.
Yeah.
For someone like myself that is been training for 10 years now and is loving tricking, wanting to get into it more, but is getting real sore, would your focus just be make sure the warm-up's real good, get the mobility work in, or what would you be adding in to speed up the work capacity building?
Absolutely. I would definitely do those things you said. Warm up is key, and doing the right type of warm up is very important. I'm fresh on this. I just did that video today. It should come out in a few weeks. Awesome. On YouTube. But in that research, it was like, this warm up reduced injury risk. Between the studies, very high quality research. One said 20% injury risk reduction. Another said 77%. So that's the range. But even 20% is massive.
I'll take 20%.
20%? Yeah. Oh, 20% less injuries. Do you want that or not? For 10 minutes of work each time, that actually helps also improve your performance for the thing you're doing. Yeah, sure, maybe I'll do that, and that's just warming up. It's not even conditioning and all this kind of stuff. So that's a huge thing I would do for you.
Yeah.
It's like, if you make sure you have a mobility component in your warm up, a stability component, a blood flow component, and then a component where you're doing stuff that looks like the activity you're doing. Those are the phases of a complete warm up that we talk about on the app. So it's priming the system, activity specific mobility, activity specific stability, and then movement prep. Do those things. The whole thing in total takes 10 to 15 minutes, and that will help a lot. Number two, I would try to find the root cause. of why that is happening. Like if you've never felt that before at all in your life, then okay, that's one thing. Maybe we can tie it to, oh, that's a specific weird movement that maybe your body's not ready for. But a lot of times, like, I'm going to guess you felt that, but less than you do with tricking.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You felt
Just
this issue before?
little jujitsu for sure. But tricking more amplified.
Right. So it just amplified it. It didn't completely make it something new.
No.
So my point in saying that is that there is some tissue around your lower back, whether it's your hip, your lower back, something up or down the chain, right? That is causing a reduced capacity to do stuff, you know, in that lower back. So I would look at, I would even look at thoracic mobility. I would look at hip mobility. I would look at core strength and stability and mobility as well. But we have a lower back program, so you can check it out in the app.
As soon as you say this, you're like, oh, that capacity's not up to scratch. I'm like, I need to get stronger. I need to put more work in this. Like instantly my head's like, oh, there's more room to grow. Like let's, all right. Cool. Yeah.
That's an opportunity. Yeah. And that's what it should be. And I'm glad you said it in that way, because I was probably going to forget that. But I had that thought too of like, no, this is actually an opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity to, like, you're able to do all this with that.
It's in my control that I can not be in pain. That's awesome. That's super liberating as well, right?
Yes, definitely. And so I would look at those things, you know, and it's not just stronger, like that could be it, but stronger where?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Whenever people say stronger, they mean stronger in the gym bro, bodybuilding muscles. Don't get me wrong. I like being fit. It's good to have muscles. Very good to have muscles. You should be very strong, especially doing something like tricking. But where are you strong? Are you only strong in the show muscles, or are you also strong in the stability, the stabilizing muscles that will control the joint motions, the joint forces that could sprain an ankle, could blow your ACL or whatever else? You know, are you training the connective tissue at the joint level to be able to handle the forces you're putting in it as well? Like these are things that we try to answer on the app for movement artists, because this knowledge is not readily available. So these are the kinds of things though that, like, I think that just looking a little bit more globally and not just to one source of like, this is how to get strong, how to going to Google and being like, how do I not have my back hurt? Okay. Planks. It's just going to tell you planks. Might tell you cat camel, which is pretty good. But you know, that's the beginning.
No, for sure. No, I love that. Just a reason to get overall strength, but like not just like deadlifting strength. Like I want to be strong in every range of motion that my body can go into. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And like, you know, and just being able to be that exact avatar of body type and whatever else to do the activity you're trying to do, if you're that dedicated to it. Obviously you can moderate everything we're saying depending on your interest level of everything. You know, you shouldn't be just like, oh man, these guys say I have to do whatever. But like, if you're serious about it, then you got to do these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just what it is. This is the blueprint for this sport, but that's just what needs to be done. It's not going to be like anything you've just seen on the internet before, because it is new, it's different, but there is a way.
Yeah. And sorry, I don't want to keep rambling, but I think it's really cool to see, like, you just have people. Sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought here.
Fine.
Anyway,
we moved. That's fine. There's no stress there, bro. I got a heap of standards for the strength testing that I do for my guys, because I call it uncommon strength standards, because I don't want a powerlifter to just come in and be just like an elite level of it. I don't want a calisthenics athlete to come in and just be an elite level. So I wanted to combine a heap of different areas of strength training and create this like ultimate athlete kind of thing, right? So I've got like a belt system like jiu-jitsu, so like white, blue, purple, brown, black, so that way you can see where you are. And I was wondering if you had any kind of standards that you had for movement types for tricking specifically?
Like you have to be able to do this.
Maybe not you have to, but it'd be a good idea that if you wanted to be more explosive, you should be able to do this.
Yeah, one of them is a pistol squat, and it's not because so standards and tests and measures can also be workouts sometimes, but other times they can also just be a test of capacity. And what I mean by that is I use pistol squats in my training regularly, but I don't always do them, and I don't always have to be doing them. And if somebody has a specific reason not to do them, then we can work around that. But it's a good movement to be able to be like, you have the appropriate range of motion in your ankle. You have a good amount of hip mobility as well, and knee mobility. And you have enough single leg stability to handle your body weight with control. If you have a full depth pistol squat, that's very important. All those things for tricking, you know?
Absolutely. So you're saying that you don't need to have it programmed all the time, but if you just keep the capacity to be able to do it, that's like a big tick of like being like, that's awesome to have for tricking.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm saying that you don't have to ever program it, to be honest, as long as you have the ability to do it, and that is showing that you have the capacity to do all the things I just said. So that's a good thing. And I think standards should be like that like the standard should show, it should be evidence that, hey, this person is able to do this, so that they're able logically and hopefully scientifically, if we have the research for it later on, be like, okay, that person could do it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, man. This I've got pistol squats in my standards. That's one of the things that I've got for them, but I don't really program that many pistol squats in for them. I do have other things I like to put in to build them up for it, but like that's the fun of it, right? Like you have this big skill that I'm trying to get them to be able to do. I've actually got them try like one of the black belt standards, like weighted pistol squats. So I've got like this big level that I want them to aim for, but like there's other things like I just want you like the white belt's like a negative of a pistol squat. Like if you can do that, that's a great start, and it's just building the capacity up as we go, which is it's like it just gamifies it a bit, have fun doing it, and just gives them
awesome.
that same longer time horizon to be like, oh, what's the point? It's like, well, this is what we're going to be able to do if you stick to it, you know. So it's not a rush.
That's so cool. Like what other standards do you have?
I've
curious.
got one arm chin up as like, so the black belt ones are quite ridiculous. I haven't hit all of the black belt ones, but like the majority I have, just so that way I'm still working as well. But one arm chin up is one of them, but like then like one body weight chin up is like a white belt. So it ranges from all of them. I've got things like deadlifts and bench press too, just because I like doing them and it makes me feel strong, and it's really good for jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah, for sure.
Weird things like handstand push-ups. I'm actually going for a world record for handstand push-ups next month. So
oh god,
that should be some fun.
Good luck.
Thank you, bro.
What's the record?
No one's actually set it yet, so I'm just gonna set it for like the most in an hour. That's the plan.
Nice.
And that so now my training's been really going good for that, which is cool. But so I just try to bring in all these other areas of things for people, because like I really just don't want to, like I did bodybuilding for like 3 years and I was like, this just doesn't seem like the fun part of training. Like I think it could be so much more. So I'm trying to help people get that now. And again, some really cool results, like females hitting their first muscle ups and stuff. Like that's females hitting their first chin ups huge, but getting a muscle up is like, oh my god, that's insane. So we have some real fun with that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, just I really, man, like the main thing for me, and I think it works perfectly for tricking, is that my number one rule is that I have to have fun. Like in my coaching, in my training, if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to bring my best self. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to put in some hard fucking work. Like I enjoy that, right? Having this gamified version is awesome. Going to tricking and be like, oh, this is cool, even if it's super difficult, that I can't hit this skill. That's fine too. But it's like this is so different, and I'm having fun, and I don't want to ever quit. So I'm trying to build the work capacity in the body that allows me to never be able to quit. I actually wrote yesterday that I want to be able to do a backflip, even if it's just on trampoline when I'm 90. Like that's my goal, is just to have the capacity built to being able to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have some fun
sick.
there.
That's
Last
really
question,
cool.
bro. I don't know what this is in pounds. It'd probably just be over 200 pounds. That's what I'm weighing at the moment. Do you have a perfect body composition, like maybe body fat percentage, or do you have any thoughts on being heavier but being supported by muscle as a positive or a negative kind of thing, if that makes sense?
Totally makes sense. I think the first thing to look at is strength to weight ratio. So, that's the main thing to look at. So if you're strong, but you're plenty strong for your weight, but you're 250,
Cool.
Great. The only thing I'll say about that though is that now there's going to be a lot more stress on the connective tissue.
So
and
you,
all
you can't
that.
just do the general training where you're not trying to strengthen out the connective tissue as well, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're ignoring that in your training, then that's going to
Be the
be
limiting
a problem.
Yeah.
That might be a limiting factor for you. But in general, I think that as long as you have a very good strength to weight ratio, and that's easier for lighter people, by the way.
Yes.
And they've graphed this, like the strongest person that can lift whatever. This the highest strength to weight ratio. I forget if it was a squat or deadlift or something, but it was somebody well under 200 pounds. It was fairly light person. I think between like maybe 130 pounds.
Wow.
They had the high strength to weight ratio. And there's people deadlifting an insane amount of weight, but they're just so much heavier that they're not as strong as that person for their weight, like ants.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, so that would be like the first thing that you'd be looking for. Like, obviously, if someone's got a heap of fat, it's like, cool. Like, probably we try to lose that. That'd be awesome. But if your strength to weight ratio is you're doing good, you're not too worried about it, as long as you're doing the work to build up the connective tissue as well.
Yes. And then mobility in the right areas, of course. Having enough mobility in your hips is huge. For any sport at all, hips and shoulders are huge. Hips, shoulders, and spine. Everyone should be focusing on that pretty hard.
I love that because I say it now, like I'm doing mobility, but probably not enough. It's probably like I probably could just do more. Even just a little bit more would be adding benefits for me. So
it's crazy. Check this out. Mobility. It is movement ability.
Oh, yeah, that's
why
cool.
not train that? It's the ability to move in different ranges of motion. People think of it as flexibility, but it's completely different. It is strength at every range of motion and control at every range of motion. So it's I like to describe it just very quickly in 3 words: end range strength.
Yes, cool. I love that.
End range strength and control.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done have you seen Lucas Aaron, Range of Strength, on Instagram before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
I know him by his handle. I didn't know him by his name.
No. So I've done one of his courses before, and like that was the first time I was like shown end range strength by some guy that wasn't just like a vegan yoga instructor, like saying, "Oh, get flexible." It's like, oh, this guy lifting serious weight in these end ranges. It's like, oh, this is something completely different. So, is that what you're kind of talking, like that kind of stuff would be beneficial? Yeah.
Totally. I mean, think about it. The highest forces are experienced at end range in sport. And they're where you're the weakest.
Yeah.
So
you're going to get injured.
Therefore,
you
got to get, you're at the, so obviously, I say obviously now, but I've been talking like your audience tricks, but for the people who don't trick, like if you come out of a round off, it's a cartwheel, you land on 2 feet and you go to do other flips out of it. The angle is like this. It's not straight up. You're blocking. We call this blocking, and you're blocking at a very aggressive angle that puts your ankle in a lot of dorsiflexion very aggressively and very quickly because you're snapping down your whole body weight into your foot. And then you land like this, and then you have to immediately push off and do 3 spins or 2 twists or 2 flips off 1 foot. And that's a lot of force, right? And so what's going to go?
Yeah.
Achilles is up there, right? So that's the tendon that's going to help protect that. So if we're not straining the connective tissue, just training the calf to go and not the Achilles to transfer that force, then that's going to be where the weak link is, for example.
Yeah.
So like training at that range will help support that in that range. It's just
perfect. Yeah, that was one of the main things that when I started working with my coach, he's like, you're very muscle dominant. We need to put some more on the tendons. Like, every time I jumped, he's like, I can see what we need to be working on. I was like, okay, cool. Like, again, if there's weaknesses, let's bring them to light. Let me just build them up. Like, I don't want them to be weaknesses. And just use it as an example to experiment with some new things, make your training fun again with something new, and just become a better athlete overall.
Yeah, totally.
Love it, bro. Bro, thank you so much. This has been awesome. This is everything I wanted out of it.
Dude,
loved it.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Always, bro. Thank you so much.
Good time.